Hi, welcome back to the 164 show. My name is Peter. I am your host. And if you are new here, welcome. If you like 164 diecasts or ratio diecasts, you've come to the right channel. We do everything from reviews, challenges, unboxings, interviews, and customizations of 164 ratio diecast. Doesn't matter if it's Hot Wheels, Matchbox, Greenlight, Johnny Lightning, or whichever brand there is. Literally hundreds of brands out there. Give us a like, subscribe to the channel. We do 1 to 2 videos per week. And I'm looking forward to seeing this community grow. We're actually planning to do maybe 100 subscriber giveaway. So we've got a bit of distance to go. We're obviously just starting. So if you are a fan and you want to get your chance to win some free stuff, subscribe below, and once you reach maybe 80 or 90, I will announce what this giveaway is over on our Instagram page. So do follow us on Instagram. That's the 164 show on Instagram and also TikTok. I do some other unboxings and other videos on the TikTok side as well. Now today I won't do any reviews or any other commentary like I've done in the past with Hot Wheels, but I do have my first guest interview, and this is with a gentleman called Richard Roll, and he is based in Wellington of New Zealand. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go face-to-face interview or one-on-one interview with him during the New Zealand lockdown. However, I did manage to get him on Skype and we had a great chat. He was one of the organizers of the New Zealand Hot Wheels convention. So there have been 3 conventions that's been held, and they are 1 in Wellington and 2 in Hamilton starting from 2017. They were obviously going to do one in 2020 and 2021, but just this pandemic and lockdowns just didn't make this possible. So if you are curious of how a Hot Wheels convention is ran, and what goes into actually the behind the scenes and the creation of some limited edition Hot Wheels convention cars, stay tuned, coming up right now. So we have a special guest here today, and he's joining us all the way from Noah Hut in Wellington. And he's been a very big part in the New Zealand Hot Wheels community, and I'm so glad to have him on this video and be one of our very first guests or the guests in this show. So without further ado, let me introduce Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi Peter, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining this show and coming as our first guest.
Hey, you're welcome.
Okay, so Richard, without wasting any more time, who are you? Why are you such a big part of the New Zealand Hot Wheels community?
I'm not sure. I've been collecting for quite a long time, probably 25, 30 years or more. Initially got to know people through, Trade Me, I guess, and before that maybe I don't know, but maybe the early 2000s, Trade Me, and through HotWheelsCollectors.com, they had an international chat board, which was a great way to meet people, and I actually met a lot of Kiwis and Aussies through that.
I've actually seen, and I'm part of this community that you've created, and it's a couple of thousand people on here.
Yeah, nearly 3,000 now.
Nearly 3,000.
Yeah, and in the early days, the trading was cluttering up the page so much that we had to create a separate buy-sell trade page to keep the trading on one side, and it meant that the Hot Wheels collector page could focus on stories about what was happening, recent finds, what people were wanting to talk about other than the trading. So yeah, and the trading page has almost 3,000 people on it as well.
Fantastic. In regards to your personal collection, so before we jumped in this call, we had a quick look at what your collection consists of.
Yeah.
But what does it actually consist of? What is your primary goal of your collection?
So I've got a history of hot rodding. As a teenager, I built a hot rod, and I've had several cars, V8s, in my life. And so I guess the foundation is street rods, muscle cars, in line with my interest, I guess. But since then, it's grown into a bunch of other things. I've got a reasonable amount of JDM as well, but a lot of it is the Bone Shaker, 55 Gasser, obviously Escorts, Falcons, the mainstay of Kiwi, iconic.
What would you say is the top 5 in your collection, in your opinion?
Top 5 castings?
Let's go castings.
Bone Shaker, 55 Gasser. I've got. It's really hard. I had a Mustang, a real Mustang, so I'm quite a keen Mustang collector. But there's so many Mustangs. I've got all of the Hot Wheels release GT500s and the Shelby Super Snakes. And there's a few hot rods like the Parson Gasser, 40 Ford, those classic sort of 30s, 40s hot rods. It's really hard for me to pick a top 5. Yeah, I mean, the trucks.
I don't blame you. That's not an easy question.
Yeah, I mean, this stuff. There's a variety of, 55 Chevy panel with the bike in the back. I mean, there's so many I could choose. Yeah, really hard.
You said you had the page for 10 years. So what was the earlier part? So before the page and before Facebook, could you tell us more about your early days?
Yeah, so, well, I started because my wife and I used to go to antique stores, and I remember finding, I've got it right here, I remember finding this, and this was one of my childhood favorites, and I found it in an antique store and I bought it, and that kind of got me back into having a few models, buying them, putting them on the shelf. And then I went to the States for work, and I found that the product you could get in the US was way better than what we could get here.
Right.
More than just main lines at the warehouse. It was, a lot of collector lines. And I bought a bit of stuff back, and some of my friends said, oh, next time you go, grab this, grab that. And I ended up signing up with a wholesaler and importing stuff. And so this is kind of mid-late 90s, started importing a bit of product, selling it, Trade Me or wherever. I'd take my car to swap meets, like real car swap meets, and sell out of the boot. And yeah, just started building a bit of a community around me.
You have been in the convention scene, so it's interesting because for a lot of international viewers, they may be familiar with international conventions in Mexico, the US, Japan, but New Zealand, good old New Zealand, has had its own convention. Richard has been a very big part in that story. How did it all begin?
Well, when I was traveling to the States, I managed to time one of my work trips so that the last weekend was in LA at the same time as an LA convention, and I was too late to register for the official event, but I managed to stay in the hotel, and I got to do the room trading, and I got to chat to a bunch of people and sort of be on the outskirts of the main event, and that was a real eye-opener. Prior to that, I had seen a lot of chatter and photos and stuff on the HotWheelsCollectors.com, so I was very familiar with how these conventions worked, and I was really keen to attend one. In the late 2000s, there was actually a group of guys, New Zealand and Australian guys, who organised a little get-together, kind of mini convention type thing in Australia, and then I think it was 2009 we had one in Auckland. It was just run at a guy's house, Kevin's place, Kevin McMurray. That was kind of the early days. And in getting together with people through the Facebook page, a couple of guys started talking about conventions and whether we could hold one in New Zealand. And Matthew Steegs, in particular, was really, really keen to build one. And so him and I, with help from a few other people, Jackson O'Reilly, Sam Anderson, we put together our own conventions, and so I did a lot of the comms with Mattel in Australia. Matthew did a lot of the groundwork in terms of building the event, and it was really amazing. Really, just a bunch of guys with a can-do attitude. Let's try it and see what happens. And the first one was 2017, run locally here. actually ran it at the Hot Rod Club Rooms that I'm a member of the club, and so that we were trying to protect ourselves from financial risk by keeping costs down, but the response was amazing, and it was a really great weekend.
Obviously, there was an entrance fee. What
Yes.
was did that change throughout the years? You held a few.
Yeah, so we've had 3 so far. Unfortunately, 2020 had to get cancelled because of COVID.
Mm.
I can't remember exactly, but it's always been around about $100.
Right.
And you could top up with so you get a car, an event car, and we can talk about the cars. I can show you some cars.
Sure.
I think it was about $100, and there was a cap or a T-shirt or options, and then for the 18 and 19 events that we ran in Hamilton, they were slightly bigger events with an evening part with a dinner, so you could pay another $100 or so and also go along to the dinner event. So it was kind of split into 2 halves. You had the day event, and then you had the evening.
So holding these kind of conventions, especially the later 2, the bigger ones, obviously you would need bigger partners and more help to manage all this, to manage the logistics and operations. Was there other players involved, other stakeholders involved in planning this, or the later ones?
No, it's quite a small, tight team. I guess the people involved my feeling is the people that were involved have been involved in organising events before, certainly through my work, and I think Matthew's partner, Alana, through her work. And so I think, we did have some helpers along the way, but it was a pretty tight core team. Matthew Steegs was obviously a big driver in getting the event off the ground. Between him and I, we kind of organised the main things like sponsorship and event cars and stuff like that. I think with the event cars, he had a bit of help from his dad in terms of putting the cars off the cards and recarding after they were customised. And on the day, Matthew's partner Alana was a huge contributor in terms of the organisation of the event, registration, that sort of stuff. And I think they had some friends at the Hamilton one that came along and helped as well. My wife was a helper as well, and she was also a photographer. So yeah, it was a pretty tight, small team. The other people involved were Sam Anderson and Jackson O'Reilly did a lot of the artwork. He did all the artwork actually, and it was a few helpers with judging at the customizing competition. I roped a few extra people in for that. But it was a great team effort.
So what did you set out to achieve with these conventions?
I think the main thing we were trying to achieve was just building a community and giving an opportunity for people to meet face to face, because chatting online is one thing, but actually sitting down, having a beer, having a chat is just another dimension. And I certainly experienced that in America when I got to go room to room trading. Just being able to sit down and talk to people, it's just a lot of fun.
Have you seen the community grow exponentially throughout the last few years?
Yes, absolutely. With each convention, I think we've seen a significant growth. But also the onset of COVID, I think, has brought a lot more people into online purchasing and looking for new hobbies or something different.
During the organizing of these conventions, did you guys come across any big hurdles, big challenges?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges was around the financial risk, and it was certainly on our minds with COVID. We were hoping to run one this year, but the prospect of having an event cancelled or half the registered participants not being able to attend was certainly hanging over us, and so we were a bit risk averse as far as that goes. And there's a lot of money we have to put in up front.
Yeah.
And if the event had to get cancelled, then there was certainly financial risk.
Why are these conventions not considered official?
They are kind of official. I mean, even the US conventions are not run by Mattel, but Mattel are heavily involved. I think the main point is that our cars are customized by ourselves. They're not out of the Mattel factory. And I think that's probably the delineation between what's an official event as opposed to a non-official event. So we certainly have Mattel's backing in terms of they allow us to use their logo. I've got written approval from them, Mattel Australia,
Yeah.
to run these events with their logo and promote it as a Hot Wheels event.
So would you hold something similar or the same in the near future? Because, personally, I'd love to attend. I missed, obviously, the previous ones.
Yep. Look, we'd love to have another one. And as soon as we get some, I guess, more comfort around the COVID situation, perhaps with, more people getting vaccinated, the risk of cancellation will reduce, hopefully. And yeah, I'm definitely keen to have another convention and continue having them annually.
All right, so let's talk about the cars of these
Sure.
conventions. And obviously, you have most of them, or if not all of them, and some more special ones. And I've got a few here myself.
Cool.
But let's talk about the very first convention cars,
Sure.
the 2017,
Yep. Now,
which
unfortunately,
I don't have. But yeah, please.
I do. But unfortunately, I don't have a participant one.
Okay.
So Matthew Steegs did the customizing on these.
Yeah.
We found the Datsun Ute
Yes.
in stores and bought 100 of those. And Matthew customized them with the tampos for the event.
Oh, yeah.
He put them together. Jackson O'Reilly did the acrylic cards, the card art, and
Wow.
yeah. So this one you'll see has 0 on it, and so there were a
Chase
few. Yeah, this is the Chase with the gold wheels.
Yeah.
Actually, this was for the organizers. So Matthew made a few of these for the guys that organized the event. So that's that one. The 100 cars, there were 50 with grey wheels and 50 with white wheels from memory. Unfortunately, I don't have either of those. And we got Monoblock, who produced the wheels, to sponsor the event.
Yeah.
And they supplied the wheels for us. A good part of the event, I guess, is all proceeds went to charity.
Yeah.
And so we've used Ronald McDonald House was the first one. I think Starship, the Auckland Hospital, Kids Hospital, was the second one. And the third one was a kids charity, Heart Kids, I think it was, in Hamilton. So yeah, all proceeds from each of the events had gone to charity. And how we raised money wasn't just from the registration, because that pretty much covered our administrative costs of running the event. But what we did do is we had a bunch of customs made by some really good customizers, including Sean Hayden, Oddie Boy Customs.
Yep.
And we would raffle or auction off those customs. And that was a great way to raise money. And in addition to that, bingo was really, really popular. So I ran bingo. In the first year, I did a bunch of bingo cars. I had 12 cars. This is one. I've actually purchased this back from someone who owned it. But I did the customizing on these. There were 12 different cars, 4 Vita Bugs, 4 Vita Vans, 4 55 Chevy Gases, and 4 other castings, all for the bingo. And yeah, we raised quite a lot of money from the bingo and the auctions and raffles.
Cool. All right, so we're moving on to 2018.
Yeah. So 2018, the car was provided by Mattel Australia. You've got one as well. So
right, that's interesting.
So this car, the Datsun 510, was the mail-in car out of the US. So the special limited edition mail-in. You had to buy so many cars, send in your receipt, and you got a car back in the mail.
Yeah.
So I managed to convince Mattel Australia to send me a few boxes of those, and we opened them all and made our own. So we modified the car just by adding tampos to make it unique for our convention event.
Okay.
And again, this one is, you can see, a 0. So
very special.
And for the dinner, if you registered for the dinner that night, you also got one of these.
Yep. Great.
Or one of these.
So it was a That all this.
I think it was a bit of a lucky dip,
I
depending
see.
on where you sat. There was also a token, and the token was good for one drink, and everyone got one of these, and it's a little bone shaker. And
Wow.
I think that's actually engraved,
Yeah.
etched or engraved. So it
Okay.
says
Yeah, I see that.
good for one drink.
Yeah.
So I think there were red and blue versions of this, and I know some people didn't hand them in because they didn't want to get a free drink because they'd have to hand over their car. What they didn't realize is that they could grab their car back at the end of the night. So yeah,
I see. So the last convention that actually happened.
yeah. So this was a car.
Yep.
Came in a little box. So different presentation. Instead of being on the acrylic card, it came in a box. And
Yes.
if I open up the box, it came in an acrylic presentation case,
Oh.
and we had the Escort. Very much in the livery of the Massport Rally Escort from
Oh, yes.
the 80s, I guess. This is my special edition Matthew made, which has the gold wheels, which
Yep.
Again was the organizers' chase car, and the standard version has the black. So here we go. So these are the lanyards and
Oh, yeah.
passes. So when you register, you would get your lanyard and pass, and it would also signify whether you were eligible for the dinner as well, or whether you'd paid for the dinner as well. So you can see this one has the warehouse on it. So we got warehouse sponsoring us for the lanyard that year.
Yep.
And actually that one as well. So the first one, the lanyard was sponsored by Toy World.
Oh.
I managed to get the local owner of Toy World, who has quite a few Toy Worlds in this part of the country.
Yeah.
He was happy to provide lanyards as sponsorship. So
My last questions in regards to these convention cars is, how come these specific cars were chosen each convention? Was there any backstory, or is there a reason behind this?
I guess the first thing was we wanted a casting that would be popular. We wanted a casting that the entrants or the collectors would be interested in. And the second thing was, where are we going to get 100 cars from, or 120 cars from?
Sure.
So yeah, it was a mixture of what's something that people would like and what's available. I mean, the second year was really brilliant because Mattel was able to deliver us a bunch of these, and that made our life so much simpler. And I think Matthew was pretty keen on the Escort, and we managed to scrounge enough Escorts from the warehouse and other retail stores, and we had a bunch of people buying for us, and that allowed us to get enough cars to produce that car.
Any last comments or any last words with your history of New Zealand Hot Wheels conventions?
There is a convention Facebook page. So check it out, New Zealand Hot Wheels Collectors Convention. Give it a like, and certainly look out for updates on that page. If and when we can make announcements on an event, then that's probably the first place that we will go to do that.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Richard. I think there's so much content here, and like I said before, can't wait for the next convention. And hopefully we can even go to international conventions as well.
Yep. Yeah, well, thanks.
Fingers crossed.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
In fact, we had a few Australians come over to our convention. Some of them were Kiwis coming back, but
Yep.
Australians haven't had a proper convention like this. New Zealand has, so yeah, we're pretty lucky.
Yeah, absolutely.